welcome to another awesome FileMaker day with training on the Claris FileMaker platform. I'm Richard Carlton, creator of FMTrain.tv, where every day is an exciting day to learn about the Claris FileMaker platform. So today is Friday, end of the week. We got a lot of good stuff coming on today. So David Simpson is back by popular demand, mostly because he tried to shove 20 pounds of into a 5-pound bag last time he was on the show. So we left stuff on the floor. And what David, we were teaching him was that the rest of us are not nearly as smart, so we need to slow it down, make it simpler to understand, and also, with a lot of AI related stuff. But he was also kind of peripherally talking about a product that he had created. So it's a FileMaker. I don't know, the word migrator is in it, and Margaret had the impression it took databases out of FileMaker and moved them to other systems. But I think David can go into FileMaker as well from Access and SQL and other things like that. So we want to have him showcase the tool that helps us migrate data systems from one platform to another platform, and what does that get us and where does it go? We're going to do that momentarily. So David Simpson, you are here. You're overhead the Golden Gate Bridge. Uh,
Yes, yes.
Hopefully you're wearing a parachute if you're that high in the air there.
Right.
And David, tell us about your product. I mean, like I always ask people, why are you here and why should I give a shit? Right? And I know
Certainly.
why you're here and I know why you're back because you have
Yes.
amazing stuff. But if you get in an elevator with Elon Musk or someone who's got a ton of money who might invest in you, you got 30 seconds or 45 seconds but on in the elevator with him. They're trapped in the elevator with you. You have 45 seconds to convince them it doesn't suck and why they should love you. And so, why don't we start with your elevator pitch? What is your pitch? And then, if you want to share your screen, go ahead.
Sure. So my elevator pitch is that FmPro Migrator is the only tool which is capable of converting other databases and programming environments into FileMaker Pro. And basically it does a complete conversion into FileMaker Pro. In fact, I'll just bring up this first slide here so that you can see it. So basically, the main item that I'm going to show today is converting Microsoft Access into FileMaker Pro. And you can see on
Uh,
the left-hand side, I have all the input sources, FileMaker, Access, Visual Fox Pro. I can import from MySQL, MariaDB, SQL
mm,
Server. I can import COBOL scripts, and I can import, 50 or more different programming languages directly into FmPro Migrator, and then from there into FileMaker Pro. The first item that you see on the list, I got FileMaker Pro on the left, I got FileMaker Pro on the right. Why would I want to do that? Well, if you want to do a database rebuild project, maybe you have a file which is corrupted, you need to rebuild it. That's one reason you might want to do it. Typically, I'd probably recommend you use the data migration tool first and then use the migrator second if that didn't work for you. Another reason is what we call table consolidation projects.
mm.
So imagine you've got a 50 file FileMaker 6 solution you never upgraded yet, and you want to bring that into a single file as a .fmp12 file. So you can combine those 50 files together using FmPro Migrator to help the automation process of rebuilding all those layouts, table occurrences, relationships, etc. in the new database.
Yeah, that's a big one. So, for those of you who don't remember this, or probably not a lot of, probably half the people here are aware of this and half not. So, back in the old days, for every table you had in FileMaker, you had to have a separate file. And so, if you like starting points of CRM that we give away, it has 30 tables or some number like that. Yeah, that solution originally, well, it was always in one file, but when we originally discussed it, doing it way back in the day before FileMaker 7, it was 30 some odd, would have been 30 some odd files. So if you have someone says, hey, can you take over the solution? This guy retired or died or whatever happened. And so can you come over and take this over? And you've got a whole bunch of FMP12 files or FP7 files or whatever they are. That's a project where consolidation is going to be a thing. So you want to bring the tables together into one file, makes it way more manageable. That's a whole conversation of itself. When's a good time to do that, when's not, but find a good developer can help you with that, or we could even have a show on that if we wanted to. We haven't talked about that in a long time, but David's tool allows you to help uh, bring the tables together into a single file. Margaret, can you imagine? Then you have to bring the scripts in, the layouts in,
Yeah,
probably the
that,
layouts. There's a whole
yeah.
sequence of things you have to do in a correct order, but it helps you put it into a single file. Then it's easier to manage that, right? So anyway,
Right,
David, good, good. All
exactly.
right. Well, you guys continue on here. I have to wrench, but David, I like what you're doing, and this is really impressive. So,
All right, very good.
Margaret, do we have any initial questions up front?
Yes, I want to make sure that I understand this. So can you also convert, like you say that you can convert FileMaker Pro into Microsoft Access and MySQL. Could you convert Access and MySQL into FileMaker Pro or?
Certainly, yeah. Looking at this diagram that's on the screen, so I have all these different input sources. So FileMaker Pro, I can import FileMaker Pro into FmPro Migrator. I can import Access into FmPro Migrator. I can import Visual Fox Pro. I can import MySQL, MariaDB, SQL Server. I can import just random programming scripts like COBOL and really any other scripting language. So all of these items you see on the left-hand side of the diagram for importing, I can import into FmPro Migrator. All the items you see on the right-hand side of the diagram where it says exporting is I can export into those. So, what I'm showing here is going to be primarily converting Microsoft Access into FileMaker. Technically, yes, you can convert FileMaker to Microsoft Access. You probably won't be perfectly happy with the results. I'll give you an example. A lady had me convert a FileMaker database into Access because someone told her that, oh, well, this is something that you should do. 6 months later, she came back to me and says, I can't stand Microsoft Access. Can you convert the Access database back into FileMaker? And I said, yes, I can do that. Do you still have the FileMaker database? She said, yes. So I basically imported the data from the Access database back into the FileMaker solution, and then she could be back into FileMaker because she found that she really, really loved using FileMaker, and she couldn't stand Microsoft Access. So I can also convert any one of these databases on the left-hand side into the databases on the right-hand side, like MySQL. I can convert FileMaker to MySQL. I can convert to Postgres. I can convert to SQL Server, SQLite, Oracle, yes, even DB2. I can convert the graphical interface of a FileMaker database or Visual Fox Pro into .NET XAML, and I can convert it into PHP, I can convert it into live code, and then as far as the programming, the scripting is concerned, once again, I can convert it into over 50 different programming languages. So it's basically a tool that does bidirectional conversions for many of these different tasks. So that's kind of it in a nutshell.
That's really awesome. Is there conversions that do better than the other conversions? Like is your MySQL or is like FileMaker to MySQL like really um like are there any that require like a lot of I mean, I'm sure they all require some amount of tweaking after the fact, but
Well, the first thing to recognize is that let's say if you were converting a FileMaker database into MySQL, great, you've got the data converted into MySQL, but then you have to stop and think, what are we going to do for the layouts and the scripts? You see, remember, MySQL, Postgres, SQLite, Oracle, DB2, SQL Server, those are just database engines, like the Draco database engine. They're just a database engine. There's no graphical interface. So when you convert into MySQL, you don't have any graphical interface. You have to figure out what you want to do to build a graphical interface for the data that's in your MySQL database or Postgres database or whatever the case might be. And that is why someone might want to convert to, let's say, PHP. So PHP would provide you with the graphical user interface for the data that's sitting in your MySQL database, for instance. So that's important there as far as how that all works. All of those top high-end databases, MySQL, MariaDB, Postgres, SQL Server, these are all very popular database sources. SQLite is a single user database. If you were going to build an app that just only one person wanted to use, like on a phone, then you might pair SQLite with live code. Live code provides a graphical interface. I use live code to build all of my tools, for instance. And so basically, other databases like Oracle and DB2, I don't get very many requests for those, for the one person in 5 years or more who wants to convert to an Oracle database or DB2, those features are there. No real changes. But you need to be aware of the fact that in FileMaker, we're really spoiled by having a terrific database engine. You can literally have thousands of fields in a FileMaker database. And in high-end databases, we're talking Oracle, SQL Server, MySQL, you will generally top out at about 1,024 fields. So you got to be aware of that fact that you could have too many fields in a FileMaker database and might not be able to get the data into the SQL database. Another one to be aware of is for anybody who wanted to convert FileMaker into Microsoft Access, Access has a 255 field limit. And there are many FileMaker databases that have more than 255 fields. And so if you're desperate and you needed to get the data somewhere, you could put it into SQL Server, and then you could basically, at that point, access the data in SQL Server from Access, for instance. But these are just things to be aware of, is that the FileMaker database engine is very, very performant as far as functionality is concerned, being able to handle, first of all, FileMaker database can handle, let's say 7 terabytes of data. A Microsoft Access database is limited to 2 gig. A Visual Fox Pro application uses DBF files oftentimes, and those are limited to 2 gig in size. FileMaker doesn't have 2 gig file size limits. Like say we're up to terabytes in size. So those are things to be aware of. Oftentimes, for Access and Fox Pro, people will want to go into SQL Server, and they might have already done so. So one of the interesting things that Microsoft does is they have basically an upsizing feature where you can take all the data out of an Access database, push it into SQL Server, and then it will automatically create linked tables in Access that talk to the data in the SQL Server database without you having to redesign the database. So this is kind of like FileMaker's ESS feature, but the difference is it basically, all the scripting, all the forms just basically work. In FileMaker, we would have to build new table occurrences, and then we'd have to change the field objects and the scripting to point to those new table occurrences if we were using ESS. And then we have to deal with shadow tables and some of the differences there. But that's really because in FileMaker, the Draco database engine has so many features that the SQL database engines, have trouble replicating from a functionality standpoint. So that's why we have to have basically shadow tables in FileMaker.
That's actually really all good to know. Okay, so this is what we can convert back and forth.
Yes.
How do we do that? And how does it work?
Yes, certainly. Well, so this is just a little bit about me. I've been developing FmPro Migrator for 23 years. I've been a FileMaker developer for 40 years. I still have my original Mac Plus, where I used my first copies of FileMaker, and I've been a MySQL, Sybase, SQL Server, and Oracle DBA. Been a developer, developing in Perl, PHP, .NET, and a Unix system administrator. So just a few things from memory lane there. Some of the old floppies from older versions of FileMaker. In fact, the first ones up there are back when it was Neshoba systems. So as part of this conversion process, the first thing that I need to do is I need to extract metadata from the Microsoft Access database so that I can then import it into FmPro Migrator and do something important with it. So what I do is I have written, and I haven't done it by myself, I pay people to help me, is I have a Microsoft Access database that I bundle with FmPro Migrator that basically is called the Access DDR export utility. It's kind of reminiscent of, the XML, the DDR export facility, in FileMaker. And you basically, it's an Access database and it reads a Microsoft Access database in order to provide me with the information that I require. And I've already done that here. And so that just shows you a screenshot of the utility. In preparation for doing this work, I'm going to do that part of the work where I ran the Access DDR export utility. I have to run that on Windows. So I ran that in a Parallels virtual machine because, I'm using a Mac here. I've also installed a Microsoft Access ODBC driver on Mac OS from Actual Technologies. So that is something that I need that for the next part of the process. And then I use the ODBC Manager, which is also written by Actual Technologies, and it is a free utility for managing ODBC DSNs. And so at this point in the process, then I basically drag and drop that Access database file onto FmPro Migrator to literally just read the tables from it. So I'm going to jump out of the presentation part and I'm going to do that now. So I have this Access database. Let me just kind of move the presentation. This is the Access database. This is a Northwind database. So Northwind, this is like a sample database provided by Microsoft for the for people who are interested in using Microsoft Access. And it shows them what you can do with it. And so I'm basically going to just drag and drop this database file onto the step number 1 button here in FmPro Migrator. I've already installed the ODBC driver and I've already selected a folder with the browse button. And once I drag and drop it, it is reading those tables and is actually opened the FileMaker database. Let me just double check here, make sure which one that it opened. And let me I have to move some of these windows around. And if I open this, there we go. That's the so what happened is FmPro Migrator basically used that Actual Technologies ODBC driver to read the contents of the Actual database and read all the list of all the tables and fields that are in the database. The migrator also created this little sample database, which is a FileMaker database, and this is where we're going to put everything. We're going to put the tables, the fields, the data, the layouts, everything will be in there. And so if I go back here to the migrator window, this is the main window. I'm all set up. I've got an ODBC DSN. I have also created an Access Database DSN. In fact, I'm going to show that to you in the ODBC Manager so that you can see what I've done here. And so
I'm going to ask
this,
a really silly question.
sure.
What's a DSN?
That means data source name.
Okay.
And it is one of the top questions that I get. I've made videos and PDFs on it because most people don't know how to create an ODBC DSN. They've just never had to do it.
Mm-hmm.
But this is how we talk to many databases use an ODBC connection, Open Database Connectivity. It's a standard that came out by Microsoft. And so if I look here, this is the DSN that I created using the Actual Technologies driver, and this driver runs on Mac OS. And you can see, I'm not going to reselect this, but you can see the path name here. I've already selected the path to the Microsoft Access database. That way it knows where it's located. And that will be important for the next part of the process where I actually transfer the data. I have also created an ODBC DSN for the FileMaker database. So this FileMaker database that was just created, I basically, you can see it's right here in the list. And I've also, it's important to select in the advanced language section UTF-8 so that the Unicode characters get transferred correctly. I would then, at this point, click the finish button or click the test button as I get further along in the process. I don't need to do that because I've already set this up. But that just shows you, quickly in a nutshell, ODBC DSNs, so that I'm set up for the next part of the process. If I click this yellow continue button in FmPro Migrator, you can see, in fact, I'm going to hide that for now. Here are all the tables that were just read in real time from the Microsoft Access database. And so I have not yet created the tables in FileMaker. So what I can do is I can simply click this button, and almost all the buttons in FmPro Migrator have tooltips. So I'm going to copy all these tables to the clipboard. When I click that, FmPro Migrator runs some Apple script and it opens this window, which is the Manage Database window, and I can simply click the paste button and I've got 27 tables instantly created here in FileMaker. So this is using clipboard functionality. FmPro Migrator knows what a FileMaker table is. It knows how to create the XML that represents a FileMaker table, and it knows how to put that onto the clipboard so that I can literally just instantly paste it into FileMaker. So we have already succeeded in creating these. And in fact, if you look here, you'll see because I clicked that button, the step number 2 button is marked as completed because I have created all these tables in FileMaker at this point. Let me just jump back to the presentation just to double check to make sure I haven't missed anything. Okay, that's where I created the tables, did that demo. I've created the DSNs. I showed you that. And now what I'm going to, what I should do, in fact, let's transfer data into FileMaker. And then we'll come to this window, which is where we actually produce all of the layouts for FileMaker. So if I'm over here in FileMaker, and since we've got the tables, if I'm here in layout mode, I can see, okay, I've got a customer's layout, and I have a customer's table here. I'm just going to click on the transfer data button, and you see I instantly have, let me just move this zoom window out of the way. You can see I instantly have 29 records written into the FileMaker database. I can come down to the next table, which is employee privileges. I can go over here, I can click the transfer data button, and boom, I got one record there. And basically, I'm not going to look at all these in real time, but basically, here's the employees table, and I have 9 records. So that is how I basically go through the process and transfer the data. Basically, it's an ODBC connection reading the data from the Microsoft Access database, and it's an ODBC connection that's writing the data into the FileMaker database. And the reason for doing that, instead of doing, let's say, a tab delimited file or something like that, is that I've seen cases where data gets corrupted or messed up if it's in a tab delimited or CSV file. So the standard that I have chosen is I always want to make either an ODBC connection or a direct connection to the database that I'm talking to, so that I don't have problems with, let's say if you were reading CSV data or tab delimited data, if you're off by a little bit, maybe by the program that created that file, you could be off by an entire field in the database, and then your data is going to go into the wrong field, and we don't want that to happen. So that does not happen when I'm making an ODBC connection. Now, the next part of the process is I click on the GUI tab on the migration process window, and then I click Access to FmPro Migration. This is the feature where I'm basically reading the metadata that I gathered earlier from the Microsoft Access database. And the Access DDR export tool, it created a text file which has all the information about all of the forms and the reports. So forms and reports in Microsoft Access end up becoming layouts in FileMaker. It also has information about all the relationships, and it has information about all the scripts. So by reading that text file, and then also there's a folder that sits next to it. And in fact, I've already done this before. I'll just click the Browse button here and go to my folder. This is the folder that was created by the Access DDR export utility. And you notice that I have this text file, Northwind2007.txt. I also have an images folder. These images represent images that are pasted onto the forms and reports in the Access database. So just like FileMaker. With FileMaker, we can have images on layouts, icons or whatever you might want. And we can do exactly the same thing with Access. So basically, I have extracted that info, I've written it into that folder so that I can read it and use it to create the layouts in FileMaker. So I'm basically just going to select this text file, and immediately it can read the first part of that text file and know that we've got 49 forms and reports. And then at this point, I'm going to click the Migrate button, and you can see it's reading the file. And at this point in time, it's not going to take very long. It is going to create all of these objects. We have 21 relationships that we didn't have before. We have a bunch of table occurrences. Now, we had some table occurrences as a result of importing the tables, but I also build a table occurrence to represent queries in the original Access database. A query is kind of like a table occurrence. It's like the closest thing I can think of, and so that's why I build that for you. We also have value lists. So we have value lists in Access. They don't work exactly the same way. Notice how we have two values here, but at least I'm bringing you the data in so that you can then work with it in FileMaker. You're not starting from scratch. And then here we've got 49 layouts in FileMaker, and these represent the forms and the reports. And then here we've got 100 scripts. And this is Visual Basic for applications, so VBA scripting. And I can actually convert those. We'll see that in a little bit. So
Oh, wait,
basically,
you can convert that into actual FileMaker script language?
oh, yes, and I'm going to show that. That's one of the neat
That'll be
features
awesome.
that I've been able to add to the migrator recently. Let me just double check, go back to the presentation to make sure that I'm not missing anything. Okay, so we've done the import. And okay, so at this point, I'm going to create the table occurrences in FileMaker. Now, I'm not going to do that live during the live stream because, things can go wrong. And I don't have to play this entire video, but this video is showing the automated creation of the table occurrences in the FileMaker database. So how that works is FmPro Migrator is running AppleScript to control FileMaker and create each one of these table occurrences, and it's done. And so that happened pretty quickly. And the same idea here will occur with relationships. And so we've got 21 relationships. And once again, I know what the relationships are. And so I'm using AppleScript to control FileMaker and select the fields, select the tables, and build each one of these relationships in an automated way. Now, this process of building table occurrences and relationships and layouts, this automation is not only used for an access to FileMaker conversion, it's also used for a Visual Fox Pro to FileMaker conversion, and it's used for the table consolidation projects or database rebuild projects that we're talking about. So if you had like a 50 file solution in FileMaker and you wanted to combine those together, all of these procedures that you're seeing will be used as part of that process as well. So now I wish I could tell you that this all works perfectly as far as the automation is concerned on Windows. And the sad thing is, I just am really having trouble maintaining the automation on Windows. So what I would tell people is if you really need to do the automation of building the table occurrences, the relationships, the layouts, etc., that really needs to be done on Mac OS. I actually do update the migrator for each new version of FileMaker in order to fix up the AppleScript code because Claris changes things. They might change the positions of buttons or the names of buttons or something like that, or how they're referenced. And so therefore, I go into the AppleScript and I fix that up so that that works. On the Windows side
Okay.
of things, it's just much more difficult for me to do. If someone is a licensed customer of my product and they absolutely don't have a Mac and they really need some help, they can contact me and I can help them. But that's what I'm going to recommend is this part of the process really needs to be done on Mac OS. Now we don't have to finish the video. Well, the video did finish. So now I'm going to move on to the next one. Okay,
I
now,
have a quick question for
oh,
you. So breath,
certainly,
deep breath. We're good.
certainly.
No, I know there's a lot. Exporting to .NET sends all the FileMaker layout scripts, custom functions to .NET. Where do the tables go?
Okay, so if we were doing a .NET conversion, the .NET conversion is basically converting the layouts. If we were doing a .NET conversion, the first thing that we would do is we would probably transfer the data into a SQL Server database because typically if you're doing .NET, you're probably using SQL Server as your database. So that's the first part of the process. For the .NET part of the conversion, I am basically building .NET XAML files. These are XML files that are used for what they call WPF, Windows Presentation Foundation. And so this simply represents the all the layouts. So if you've got 100 layouts, you're going to get 100 XAML files. You're also going to get a code behind file. So you'll have a layout name .xaml, you'll have a layout name .cs for C#, and if it's a VB project, you'll have a layout name .vb. So FmPro Migrator builds two Visual Studio projects, one for Visual Basic and one for C#. And there will be work required afterwards, but once again, you're not building every single object manually when you do that. And as far as scripting is concerned, scripting, I will convert that into C# if that's what you want, or VB, and that will be part of the code conversion workbench. And in fact, I'll show that when I show the Visual Basic VBA to FileMaker conversion. That process works equally well converting FileMaker to C# or Visual Fox Pro to C# or whatever it is that you might need there. So let me jump out of the presentation and just show you the creation of the value lists. So if I'm here on the value list tab, I'm basically going to click this button that says copy all value lists to clipboard. And as soon as I do that, I've run some AppleScript. I've opened the Manage Value List window. I've pasted all the value lists, and here they are in FileMaker. Some of these will indeed require some changes, but at least you've got them so that you're not starting from scratch. And then I'm just going to click the OK button, and there, I've got all the value lists in FileMaker. And once again, that's using the clipboard functionality, as we talked about in the last live stream. The next part of the process is creating layouts. Now, this is a movie. I'm just going to let the movie play a little bit, and we don't have to watch the entire movie. But basically, once again, what FmPro Migrator has done is it has read the metadata for each of the forms and the reports in the Microsoft Access database. It knows where every field is located, where every text label is located. It knows the colors, the positions of the items. It knows where tab controls are located. It knows where grid objects are located. Grid objects actually they'd be like subforms, get turned into portals in FileMaker. And the images you can see here in the movie, some of these layouts do have images, and those came directly from the Access database. And then the colors, sizes, and positions of the objects will generally be very close to where they were in the Access database. From there, obviously, as a FileMaker database, you're probably not going to keep the styling of the original Microsoft Access application. Probably the first thing you're going to do is select everything and apply a theme to it. But I want to bring everything in just as close as I can so that you can then work with it. You will have to make some changes. You can see there are places where it couldn't figure out which field it should go to, and so you'll need to look at that as a FileMaker developer. But here, you're not starting from scratch. You have something you can start with and continue your development using your skills. So, are there any questions at this point, Margaret, or should I just move on?
I believe that you're good for the moment, so I
Okay,
would keep going for a little bit and then we'll grab questions as they pop up.
very good. Um, Let me just move on to the next slide here. And so basically, the next part of the process is how do we convert that programming code from, VBA into FileMaker scripting? This has always been, a challenge. Well, now with the use of LLMs, I can do way more than I was ever able to do in the past for doing script conversions. I attempted to do it before, but now the LLMs do a very, very good job. It's never going to be 100%, but it can be very, very close. And so what I do is on this Access to FmPro Migration Service window, I click this little button and that brings up the code conversion workbench. And that's what this looks like. And I will basically give you a demo of that, but I'm just going to tell you I've made some recent improvements. In my last live stream, I said, well, I haven't been able to get scripts generated by Gemini 3 to create workable FileMaker scripts. Well, that seems to now work. And so that's really good news. So you can do your script conversion either with Gemini 3 Pro or Anthropic. So that's very good. And you can convert them into XML with both of those machine learning models, but I generally recommend that you convert it twice. Do it once as text, do it once as XML, because there can be script steps that will be dropped out and you won't know about it. I have made some script pasting enhancements in as far as converting and pasting scripts in FileMaker Pro in FmPro Migrator. And I have added a new feature specifically for this live stream where I can literally just drag and drop a text or XML file and then immediately put it into FileMaker. And specifically for demo purposes, because you don't want to sit there and just wait for the LLM to generate the script. I can just, I've already done it previously and I can just paste it. So let me move this out of the way. And if I come back here to FmPro Migrator, I'm going to click on this button, which is the code conversion workbench. And I'm basically, let me try to load the data. Okay, well, let me just see here. Let me try that again and see how many scripts we got. Okay, yep, we got 100 scripts. And let me open this and then there we go. These are the 100 scripts from the original Microsoft Access database. And we'll just start with this first one here. And I've already converted it previously, so I'll just go over to my folder and let's take a look. Here is a script. This is the order completed script. I'm going to copy this onto the clipboard. I'm going to go over to FileMaker, open the script workspace, and let me just try that again, make sure that that got copied. Yep. Close it and open it again. Oop. And back here, just trying this. I'll pick XML. And now let's go back to FileMaker. Oh, that's interesting. Well, let's just try something else here. We'll just launch it over
The
again.
nature of doing stuff live, stuff gets finicky. It always sneaks up. No, it happens to literally everyone. To be honest, people watching learn a lot just by the bug fixing then.
Absolutely. And we go back here, grab this script again,
Mm-hmm.
copy it to the clipboard, go into FileMaker and okay. Let me just quit out of FileMaker and open
A good
FileMaker
old
again.
restart doesn't hurt.
Yes, and here to workspace. Oh, well, that's very interesting. You know, I had a customer, well, not really a customer, but a viewer from our last presentation, and they were using the Clipboard Explorer, and they couldn't get it to actually paste the scripts. And so this is a good time to talk about that. What I suggest is, go ahead and make sure you click on an existing script, then go to the edit menu and then paste it. And this is very interesting. The clipboard functionality is not working right now. Let me see if I have a previous version here. I think I threw the old one away. Sometimes the clipboard functionality can get messed up. And I have occasionally had to restart the computer to get clipboard functionality to work properly. Let's look at this FileMaker database. This is one that I worked on yesterday, and let me go here to Window, and I'm going to close this one. And let's just see here. Okay, so well, these are scripts that I had tested previously. This actually came directly from the Access database. I had converted with Anthropic, and I was able to paste an entire script and get much of it to work. Now there are some challenges. What's really neat about what Anthropic did is it actually looked at the subroutines in the original Access script. And if I zoom in, you see we have a subroutine that says set default shipping address and command complete order. Well, it took each of those subroutines and turned them into a separate script in FileMaker. And it's
That's
like, okay,
insane. That's nuts.
that's
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 crazy.
that's pretty good. But then this does cause us to have a little bit of a problem when we paste the script. So we've got two scripts that were on the clipboard at once. And then what happened is we pasted. Script number one is referencing script number two, but script number two does not exist yet because it still hasn't been processed on the clipboard. So if we look up here, we can see perform script unknown. And so and it was kind of apparently, do we have the same thing here? Yeah, we have the same thing here. So this is one of the things to be aware of if you're doing this type of a conversion is you probably want to take them a few at a time, because otherwise you're going to lose track of, which scripts were put onto the clipboard at the same time. So basically, command complete order click would need to kind of look at the text version of the script that it created. And in fact, while I'm talking here, I can actually, never mind. Here's why I had the problem. I had this problem during testing and I forgot. Okay, so you have to have the output language selected as FileMaker Pro, and
Oh,
I had it as C sharp. So
that would do it.
so the code conversion workbench is looking at your output language and oh, I'm converting to FileMaker Pro. So now if I come over here, I select edit and I select paste, there we go. That we have the scripts. And so I think this is pretty cool. So th this is really important from the perspective that as a FileMaker developer, you might not understand the business logic of the original script. So this takes the business logic from Access and Visual Basic for applications, for VBA, and turns it into the business logic of a FileMaker script so that you can look at it and say, oh, okay, I know what it's doing. I now can make it do what I want. The other important thing that I've done here is I have what are called training records. And if I zoom in here, I am telling the LLM, use FileMaker find requests in place of execute SQL statements. So the LLMs have an affinity for using execute SQL statements. So if they see a SQL statement in a Microsoft Access database, they will convert that into an execute SQL statement in FileMaker Pro. And so basically, and if you want an execute SQL statement, that's fine, you've got it. But as an experienced FileMaker developer, I generally prefer a find request because let's say I do a find request, I can then sort the records and then go to layout, and immediately the user is on a sub-summary report seeing the information that they need to see. Whereas if I do a execute SQL, then I have to work through the record, the info, do something with it, maybe put it in temp table or something like that. And so the way that I really prefer to work is I prefer find requests. And so that training record enables me to tell the LLM, this is exactly how I want you to convert this. So this is where we get to the point where we can make the code nearly 100%. It's never going to be exactly 100%, but we can really tailor the output code the way we want it to work. So, Margaret, do you have any other questions popping up there?
Uh, about the Windows and Mac difference. So this can be done on
Yes.
Windows, correct?
Everything but the GUI automation.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's going to be your challenge. So what I've done is I started the process on Windows because the Access DDR export utility is a Microsoft Access database file, so it has to run on Windows.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I tried to kind of run it here on Mac OS and get it to run through Parallels. That doesn't really work. I had to actually copy it over to the virtual machine, run it there,
Interesting. Okay.
and then that worked fine. And that is the way it's really intended to work. So there's a little executable there that's part of the package that works with the images that were found on the forms and the reports. And then, of course, the Access database gets opened and then all the metadata gets extracted from it. So you can do everything on Windows except for the part of the automation. In the past, I had lots of problems where you couldn't do type ahead on Windows in the fields of the edit relationship dialog. That does appear to now be fixed in the latest version of FileMaker. But basically, it's just too hard for me to maintain both of those. Like I say, if you're desperate and you need help, you've licensed my software, then come to me, let's talk. I can probably run it through one of my Macs and build the layouts, the relationship, the table occurrences, and send it back to you if you absolutely need that. And and I'm willing to do that to help my customers. So this was visual. This is just a quick overview of the Visual Basic side of things. Let me just show one more here. Let me show the text. So I'm going to copy this text. And like I say, it's a very good idea to generate the scripts twice.
Mm-hmm.
And this is the raw text. And that way, what you can do in FileMaker is you can basically take this window, you can take this script, move it to a new window, take this script, move it to a new window, and look at them side by side and determine, what kinds of, instructions might have gotten dropped out. I am very, very pleased with the fact that so many instructions seem to work correctly. And you see, we've got commented out fields. One of the reasons for that is that the migrator, when it reads tables and fields, I basically make all tables and fields SQL compliant. And so you see, basically, customers extended. Well, I will turn that into customers underscore extended when I convert that into FileMaker. So you can see that you need to make that change here in the script. But fortunately, FileMaker has nicely commented that out so that you can just start working with it, and be able to, make those changes. But this is really tremendously helpful that, you're not starting from scratch, having to type everything. Of course, it's good to have the text version so that you can see, what it actually was trying to do for you.
There we go. We have a question. Give me a
Okay.
second.
All right.
Where I'm at, I have a tinier screen, so I have to like flip between chats. If I want
Okay.
to paste code generated from AI to FileMaker, do you have to ask the AI to present it in XML and then use FmMigrator to paste it? Question mark.
Yes, yes, but you can also use the free FmPro Clipboard Explorer as well. So I showed that in my last webinar, and I actually added a link to that on my homepage. And so you don't have to purchase FmPro Migrator. Of course, I will be appreciative if you do. But if all you want to do is generate scripts from scratch, someplace else from then you can just use the this little utility. Let me just bring this up here. And this is the FmPro Clipboard Explorer. This is what I showed in the previous live stream. And you can copy it from the LLM into the Clipboard Explorer, and then from there, basically, so you can click the paste button once you get it from the web page of the working with the LLM, and then you will click the set button, put it on the clipboard, and then into FileMaker, just like you just now saw me do in FmPro Migrator. Another thing, if there aren't additional questions, I can move on to the
Like
next.
I think there's no additional questions. So what would you like to do before we wrap up?
Well, a couple things. I thought I would show a quick demo. Yes, we've only got 3 minutes of a COBOL program, and this was kind of interesting. And so I had to make a few changes, but I was actually able to get this one to actually work with a few changes. So I have one script, which is this COBOL program, and here's the script over here in uh, the code conversion workbench. And then I'm just going to drag and drop it here and bring that over so that let me go to, well, I'm going to show the fixed version. Copy it to the clipboard, go to FileMaker and paste. And okay, this is a script that I've already fixed, and there were only two mistakes. I'm just going to run this. This is like could be like a 50-year-old COBOL program, and it got the right answer. Um, and basically, if we look at the COBOL script, I mean, we might not know what that is as FileMaker, developers, but basically, those are like variable definitions up there, at the first part of it, and then it's going to do a calculation where it's basically doing a calculation of like order discount, and it actually did that. The two mistakes were, it's kind of interesting. here in the script. It forgot in the show custom dialog, it forgot to put that variable there. And then the other thing that it interestingly did is in this calculation, it was doing a conversion of text to JText. It's like, wait, I don't need Japanese text. So why it thought that it needed to do that, I don't know. So I made those two fixes and basically got it got it up and running. And let's just see here. So that was just a quick show of COBOL. Um, I've just got a couple minutes. I have trial editions of FmPro Migrator,
Mm-hmm.
$9 or $159. It used to be the FmPro Migrator was $600.
Mm-hmm.
These trial editions work for a couple of days, and they're designed so you can just do something really quick, maybe a proof of concept to, in order to fully test all the features, include the AI code conversion features.
Mm-hmm.
These are the full versions. $47 is the starter edition. That is a 1 week license.
Mm-hmm.
Standard edition is what you would use if you were going to do a table consolidation project where you just only wanted to convert the data back and forth, MySQL into FileMaker or
Oh,
vice
okay.
versa. You don't need the AI features if you're just doing that. This is the AI accelerated edition where you see I was doing the conversions, with AI,
Mm-hmm.
$198. That's for 1 month. And then the custom edition, this allows you to run LLMs locally. And so
Oh, okay.
I do have customers who are in secure computing environments, maybe finance or maybe government or military or healthcare, and they have to run LLMs locally. That's what this version is for. And then I also have a version where I bundle hardware. So this is my site license edition. So if a customer has a good sized project, like one of my customers has a 500,000 lines of code, they thought it was going to take them 16 years to complete their Visual Fox Pro conversion project. So once I shipped them my server and my software, they said, we think that we can now get the project done in about 2 years. So from 16 years down to 2 years, they're just ecstatic that I shipped them a server that they can do all the work locally. And this
Mm-hmm.
customer, their data center is not on the internet for security reasons. They have to run everything locally. So that is it in a nutshell. And I don't know if you have any more questions, but I'm certainly available to answer additional questions.
This has been a really good presentation. So
Oh,
this
good.
is
Well, thank you.
very cool. Uh, it's one of those things where like knowing this exists is really awesome because when you need it, you know that you don't have to do this by hand.
Oh, right, right, exactly, exactly. And like I say, I try to make, the trial editions pretty economical and
Mm-hmm.
even the full versions, economical. Like I say, it used to be $600. For this version that's $99, it used to be $600, and a lot of people had problems getting approval for that. It's like, okay, it's a monthly subscription. Almost everybody can get, department level approval to buy, for any of these
Mm-hmm.
first three versions. And so that's the idea is you get it started. And quite frankly, if all you need to do is convert a COBOL script into FileMaker, just use my $9 trial edition. It won't bankrupt me and it'll work fine for your needs because you're just going to drag and drop and you'll be done in a few seconds.
There you go. That's awesome. I wanted to also ask about the AI stuff. So, how much money do you need to put into your AI API key that you have to put in, or did I misunderstand?
Well, basically, for the prices you see here, I am
Mm-hmm.
giving you 500,000 tokens per day.
Got it. Okay.
So I am paying for the AI tokens. Now, I give you the option that if you want to pay for your own tokens and put in your own API key, you can certainly do so. And you can do that here on the, if we go to, let's say, Google, you change this menu right here from DCSI means .com Solutions Incorporated, my company. That means I'm paying for the tokens. You switch it over here to user, and then you paste your API key in here, and then it's using your API key. So if you run out of tokens, you always have that option. But by default, I am paying for your tokens. This is why I have to charge. I can't just make a perpetual license. I have to charge, over a period of time, let's say monthly or whatever.
There we go. I think that's pretty freaking awesome. Okay, cool.
Uh,
So hopefully y'all at least could give us like a look and a try if you happen to need it. I think it's invaluable. A lot of people are saying thank you. Uh, with
Very
that being
good.
said, I think I'll wrap us up for this Friday if you're good, David. We'll have you back on
Yeah,
later.
I'm good. That PDF that I sent you does have the download links. Normally, people need to sign up for my mailing list.
Mm-hmm.
You can provide them with those download links as part of the YouTube video. I forgot I should have given you those at the beginning here so that you could put it in the chat. Um,
Oh, well, we'll attach to the YouTube video, and then also people ask for links on Monday. I can share them then. So,
yeah, certainly. All
yeah,
right, very good.
awesome. Thank you, everybody. Thank you, David, seriously, for coming on. This has been you have some really fun products.
You're quite
Uh,
welcome.
and I'm gonna let us all go.
All
Bye,
right.
everybody. Have a good weekend.